Welcome to orientation. In this presentation, we're going to look at what it means and what it's like to be an Aiken iNNOVATE student. Now, importantly, the things that are being covered in this presentation correlate with what is in the Aiken iNNOVATE handbook. It's really important that you take a little bit of time to make sure that you understand the expectations for students and learning coaches, as this is a family partnership between you guys and us here in Aiken County Public Schools in the Aiken iNNOVATE program. So these are a list of topics we're going to discuss, but they are covered in greater detail in the Aiken iNNOVATE handbook. So the first thing that we want to really look at and drive home is the importance of communication and information as it applies to being a virtual student. Here's the deal, is we can only communicate with students via electronic communications like email, phones, Teams meetings, and things like this. And so we're going to provide you with our information, but we also need to make sure that what's in PowerSchool is 100% current with an email and phone number for the primary contact that's going to be used by the parent or learning coach in this case. So if we need to track down a student, or if we have questions about something that maybe pertains to academics or whatever the case may be, if we can't get in touch with the family, then it's a problem and we're not able to serve that student. So communication is absolutely key. The website where you can reach us is www.acpsd.net/AI. The easiest way to access the website is to go to the Aiken County Public School District website and then click on Schools. And from here, we show up under Programs. And when you click here, you see our front page. This is where you'll access the application. And this also is where students access all portals required for the program. If you want to know more about us, you can hover over the About Us page and you can see information about applications, AI administrators and staff, and much, much more. Under Parents, you can see the AI expectations, where you can look at the document that we're covering today through the PowerPoint. You can find it right here. Back to our presentation, we send updates regularly through the Aiken County webpage and also through the Aiken County app. And so the first thing that we're going to ask all parents to do is to make sure that you have downloaded the Aiken County Public School District app. We use this as one of the primary methods of communication with our students and with our parents and families. The other primary way that we communicate with families is through email. Teachers are very, very available by email throughout the day and check their email on a regular basis. One thing you are going to struggle with is reaching them by phone during the day, since they're teaching sessions. And so if you need to make phone contact with a parent, probably the best thing to do is to reach out to them by email and request a phone call. We also use the PowerSchool app as a form of communication. Our teachers update their grades every week, and when they do this in PowerSchool, it's going to send you a notification that lets you know that the grades have been updated, and you'll see those grade changes on your phone. This right here can help you to stimulate conversation with your student about their success in the program, what's coming up, what all has already been graded, and how can you help them to be more successful. And it can also lead you to be able to ask teachers questions about what they're doing in class. If you need this app and you haven't done it yet, the school code is going to be GSNM. That's a code that is required whenever you sign up for the app. You only need to know it once. And so go ahead and take a moment to download and make sure that you're able to receive these PowerSchool updates through the portal app. Moving on, student eligibility is based on a lot of different factors regarding the whole student. What we mean by this is we're going to look at academics, we're going to look at attendance, we're looking at discipline, we're even taking into account the unique situation that all students bring when they come into the program. But in short, what we don't like is when students are successful from wherever they came in person and then they come to us and they're not doing so hot. So we definitely want to make sure that students are being successful in our program and that we are a good fit for them. So if your student comes in with A's and B's and then they end up making D's and even worse F's, then we're going to have to assess whether or not we're the right program for your students' needs. And so to do that, we have a series of interventions throughout the quarter and throughout the semester that we put into place. One of those is if a student is not doing so hot, we definitely call home. We also have interventions and meetings and such that we do during the week on our personalized academic support days, where teachers will reach out to students and try and figure out how they can provide help and interventions, tutoring, or whatever it might be, to help them get back on track. Another strategy that we use to help students to be successful is we will call in the learning support as well as the student in person to have a conference about what we can do to help them be more successful. And we use academic improvement plans where we can all come together and create a plan of action to help students be successful if they're not being successful. So we definitely want to look out for our students just like any school would. We're not going to ditch you on the wayside if grades start to slip. We also ask that students commit to our program when they start with us. So we're looking at integrating a rolling enrollment process where students can come into our program on a consistent basis, but we're not going to be able to have students come and go as they please. And so if a student starts with us, we do need the student to commit to, if they're a high schooler, the semester, because it's going to be very difficult for students to transition back in the middle of a class, especially if that class may not be offered at their school. So it could result in the students receiving a WF and failing their grade if they transition back to in-person from a high school setting. And middle schoolers are allowed to transition back at the quarter change. And so, at the end of the first quarter, if a middle school student decides they want to go back, usually we're able to accommodate that because there's less variety and less complication when it comes to middle schoolers returning to their home school. But generally speaking, we're definitely looking for that commitment. Students are not able to transition a few weeks into the semester. We also have testing requirements, and every student in the state of South Carolina needs to take state exams like the EOC and for middle school SC Ready tests. In the past, we've also had district benchmarks, which we require our students to do. We also do tests like ACT and SAT, the work keys or the WIN test, and the NWEA MAP testing, which is a virtual test. For all these tests that are in person, for all these state exams, we're asking that students make plans to come in person to take them. This is a state requirement, so our students as well must come in and do this. And we are relying on parents to help us provide transportation for students to pull this off. Transportation is not provided for students in the Aiken iNNOVATE program. Our virtual program follows the district calendar, and so students are expected to be able to report to us in person on these days that tests are assigned, usually at the end of the school year. So in December or in May, testing is going to occur most of the time, and especially if your student is doing high school, usually that's going to be in the last week or so, maybe last couple of weeks before school is out, either in the winter or in the summer. And so students are required to do all these tests in person and must be able to come in person to do them, or they won't be able to test. This could impact student grades. EOCs and final exams are 20% of an overall student's grade. And if a student does not come in to take the test, it could be grounds for them to return to in-person because these tests are required as part of our program. So we definitely make a point to send out the information about testing so that parents and learning coaches are able to make plans to accommodate transportation in advance of these testing windows. Final exams and all other in-person exams are taken at 6 Points, which is 130 Avery Lane, South Carolina 29803. This is where we're located, and there are a few tests that do not get done at this location, and we communicate that through the home school. And so we will also make a point to make sure that students are aware of that as well. Seniors are able to exempt exams if they have a 90 average in their coursework leading up to it. So we do follow that same board policy as other high schools. And if you are a middle schooler taking high school credit courses like Fundamentals of Computing, English 1, Geometry, or whatever else it might be, then you will be required to come in person on our exam dates to take exams as well. The MAP test is virtually proctored. Now, what that means is just like if it's test time in an in-person setting in a classroom, you come in, your desk is clear, your test is on your desk, your pencil is ready, you're being quiet, no other sounds and distractions are present. Think about virtually proctored tests in the same way. When you're taking the MAP test, you're going to be at home on your computer, but we need the room to be quiet. We need all distractions like other people, siblings, parents, dogs, cats, whatever it might be, needs to be out of the way. No TVs, no tablets. You're going to be on a district device. Teachers will be able to see your screen and also your face. And that's the testing conditions that we use when we were doing virtually proctored tests. This allows us to be able to protect testing integrity while also being able to implement high-stakes testing with you guys without making you come in person for everything. So when we're able to, we do this. State tests do not fall under this category, but MAP does. We also have unit tests that are done in a similar fashion. I also want to make a point that if a student misses a unit test, then it's going to count as a 0 in the grade book until the test is made up. And actually, we do this with every graded assignment because we don't like surprises at the end of the semester. So if a student misses a test and then doesn't make it up, their grade might show as an 80 or a 90, and then suddenly if that test doesn't get made up at the end of the 9 weeks, the teacher puts a 0 in and the grade goes down 20 points. So we're trying to avoid that. However, once a student makes up the test during the testing window, we are able to go in and update that test grade with the grade earned. We also use virtual SE curriculum for many of our high school credit courses. There's some Edmentum thrown in there, and a lot of our teachers are creating content using Schoology. And which draws from a combination of teacher created materials as well as materials that are created by content specialists at the district level and during curriculum teams. And so we do have several different curriculum that is used throughout our program. We make every effort we can to make sure that curriculum is embedded in the Schoology LMS so that students and parents can see grades and be up to speed on how students are progressing through the course. Our grading policies follow the same as everyone else in the state of South Carolina, and this is nothing new because the schools in our district follow a very similar pattern. But 90 to 100 is A, 80 to 89 is a B, and so on and so forth. We do require that students attend live sessions, so it's extremely important that students receive instruction in order to be able to learn in the course. And so for our Aiken iNNOVATE program, live sessions is how we do that. And our live sessions are as effective, or even in some cases more effective than what you would see in an in-person setting, just due to the lack of distractions that exist during our program. But in order to receive that, students have to be in attendance. And so our teachers do take attendance like you would see teachers do at the beginning of every class. Students who receive special education accommodations must attend all live sessions in order to receive special education minutes outlined on the IEP. Now, this even includes personalized academic support days, which we'll talk about in just a moment, but special education students that receive accommodations must be in attendance in their learning strategies class, even on those personalized academic support days. Once again, I think we've already mentioned this, but we do follow the Aiken County Public School District academic calendar. You can go on the Aiken County website and pull this calendar. It's extremely important that families make plans for vacations and whatnot and travel outside of the academic calendar. If a student is on vacation or on a trip and is not able to come in for exams or for state testing, then those students' grades will be impacted, as we are not able to exempt students from taking exams and state testing. We just mentioned this as well, but if your student receives special education accommodations, the meetings must occur with the IEP team in order to determine that this is the best setting for the student, but we also need those students to adhere to the minutes required in the IEP. If this doesn't happen, then a special review may be called in order to determine if the Aiken iNNOVATE program is best for your child. Live sessions are extremely important, and again, this is where the instruction is going to occur. So we want to make sure that everyone is on board with what this looks like and on the same page. Basically, what we're looking for is that students are attending and being engaged in the lesson. We're not a Netflix program where students can just passively watch and learn. It doesn't work that way. We're looking for students to interact. If a teacher calls on a student, the student should unmute the mic and speak to the teacher and answer the questions, or ask any questions that they have, just like they would in an in-person setting. We also are requiring the students show their face on camera so we can ensure that they're there and present and able to learn. Our teachers are going to learn and get to know your students so well that if they see them at Walmart, they're going to be able to recognize who they are. So those relationships are extremely important if learning is going to occur, just like it would be in an in-person setting. So we're asking that all students have a process or a routine in which they get ready for school, put on actual clothes, get out of the bed, brush teeth, brush hair, eat a good breakfast, and then sit up at a nice, neat, and quiet workspace where distractions are minimal. We are asking that learning coaches help us keep students away from siblings and other adults in the room or dogs and cats. We're looking for places where TVs aren't going to be on the wall across from the computer, and we're asking each family to have common sense rules about tablets and phones during instruction, as these are such critical distractions when students are trying to learn. We also are asking that students be very mindful of backgrounds and stuff on the walls and stuff that's happening in the house around them while they're learning. If necessary, students are encouraged to use a background in Teams that's going to either blur out what's happening behind them or put a picture up that's school appropriate so that things in the background can't be seen that might be a distraction from the rest of the students learning. In some cases, it may be appropriate for students to have a headset that has noise canceling features that can prevent sounds in the room from being heard on the live session if the room is very busy where the students are learning. We're also asking that students are in a well-lit room. Since we're going to ask that cameras be on, we need to be able to see the student's face. So it doesn't work if we can't see who's in the room or if we can't see the student's whole face. So we're also looking for students' faces to be in place on the camera. So learning coaches can help us with ensuring that students can be seen when on live sessions. For the most part, microphones are going to be muted, which reduces greatly the distractions that other students may have while learning in the program. But if a student is asked a question by the teacher, we are expecting that the student's going to unmute themselves and answer and interact, as this is how we can assess whether or not the student is learning in the class. We're also looking that Teams reactions are used when appropriate. There are thumbs up, there are claps, there are smiley faces, and things like this that can help increase engagement and build a sense of togetherness and community within the course. And so we look for students to be able to use those reactions when appropriate. We also have a hand raise reaction within Teams that can help students to get the teacher's attention during live session. And what this does is it highlights the student's image on Teams in a yellow box, allowing the teacher to see that they have a question. So please use that as necessary. We also follow the code of conduct. And so with that said, we follow dress codes. So students need to be dressed appropriately when they're on live session and when we can see them on camera. And just as important, we gotta make sure that we can, the stuff in the background is school appropriate. So if there's anything that might be questionable or inappropriate in the background of your students' workstation, such as weapons on the wall or posters of people with not enough clothes on or profanity, please help us to make sure that those images and those things are removed from the backdrop of the camera. Once again, I'll reiterate that if you need to use a Teams background, that could 100% prevent students from seeing inappropriate content in the back of a student's workstation. We also are looking that students not use profanity or type inappropriate content into the chat while they're on a live session, or really on any form of assignment that they're going to complete while in the program. We do have computer software that pulls those things up and flags whenever there might be an emergency. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but the simple thing is to keep their conversations school appropriate, and we're looking that all students are fully attending class. Students are not permitted to eat while on team sessions. Sometimes the camera will isolate their image so that the students can see what it looks like and even hear sounds of what it sounds like for students to be eating while on live sessions. So please don't do it. Eat during the breaks. We want students to be on time to live sessions. If a student is late, they might get stuck waiting for the teacher to let them in. But if that teacher is teaching class, they may not see when a student comes in and let them in. So students might miss class if they're late to live sessions. On the other hand, too, students are able to see recordings of all live sessions. So if they're absent or late, we strongly encourage students go into Microsoft Stream and view the recording so that they're brought up to speed. It is a responsibility of the student and the learning coach to help ensure that students know when to get on and that they develop the habit early on of attending live sessions and getting on those live sessions a few minutes early each time the class starts. Next up is personalized academic support days. Now, what we've done as a program is we recognize that students often need support from teachers that they can't easily get like they could in person when the teacher might be down the hallway and they could stay after school or whatever the thing might be. So we built in a day of the week where students are able to book time with their teacher for individualized tutoring or support in their classes. And so past days are days just for that. They're also used for intervention, where sometimes if a student's grades might slip, or if a student's been absent or missed a test or needs some kind of help that the teacher recognizes, the teacher might put time on the calendar on these days to be able to meet with students and provide them with intervention so they can do better in class. It is really important, though, that parents know and students know that past days are not days off from school. So they are scheduled school days, and we are looking that students are attending and participating and completing work on these days. Most of the time, if a student is caught up on all their work and doesn't need any extra help or intervention from their teachers, past days are going to be pretty easy days, but they should not be treated as shopping days or going out and playing or doing video games all day. These are days of the week that should be utilized in productive ways by all students. Any live session that's put on the calendar on a past day is considered a required live session. So students should always check the calendar to make sure that they know where they need to be and what classes they need to attend on a past day. If you know your child's going to be absent, let the teachers know in advance. Now, sometimes it might be appropriate to send an administrator an email to let them know that a student's going to be out, but keep in mind that administrators in our program may not be readily available to check email and share with teachers. So the best approach is always going to be to let the teachers know directly if a student's not going to be in class. And if you have a doctor's note or an excuse, you can send that to any Aiken Innovate administrator, or you can send it straight to the ai@acpsd.net email address, and it will be coded correctly in the system. Academic misconduct is an extremely important issue that's existed for a long time, and in virtual courses, it's never been easier to cheat than it is today. So we take it extremely serious. And we want to ensure that by providing a virtual option for students, we're setting them up to be extremely successful and learn in the same way that they would if they were in person. And so to this effect, we really need the help of learning coaches to support us at home with minimizing the cheating that might occur by having conversations and holding students accountable. Because what we really want to make sure is that when students graduate from our program, they have truly learned what they need to be successful. And when students cheat, they rob themselves of the opportunity to know things and to learn skills that they're going to need in the real world. So Any kind of cheating is going to be discouraged and treated as academic misconduct in our program. Plagiarism includes copying and pasting from different sources where the words are not your own. And it even includes paraphrasing, which is when you change around some of the words. So we're asking that all students on every writing assignment write in their own words and provide their own work as a submission for their assignments. We also prohibit students from copying other students' work. All of the work that we assign in our courses are intended to be individually completed unless the teacher assigns it as group work, or if the student receives permission from the teacher to work in a group. Otherwise, submitting the same exact work as another student is going to be considered a form of academic misconduct. We also have today the era of ChatGPT and Google Gemini and Claude and different types of large language models that are extremely useful tools that can help with research and with writing, but we don't allow students to utilize those programs for the completion of work at this time in the Aiken Innovate program. So we're asking that parents and learning coaches help us teach students not to use those tools when completing their work at this time, unless they're using it for research and and information to help them complete work. But they should not be using AI tools to rewrite work that they've done or to generate content for assignments that they need to submit. Again, we're looking that students are submitting their own work because that's the only way that at this time we can test whether or not students are learning. The consequences of academic misconduct is that there is no warning. This right here is your warning right now. This conversation, this orientation, we're telling you that academic misconduct is going to be taken very, very seriously. And so the first time that some kind of cheating or academic misconduct occurs, we're going to count it as a 0 for the assignment. And that's whether or not it's a practice assignment or an application or even a test. So whatever the assignment is, if the academic misconduct applies to that assignment, it's going to be counted as a 0 in the grade book. And if it happens again, then administration is going to discuss and review whether or not the program is appropriate for the student. And the student could be withdrawn from the program on the second offense. If administration decides that we are going to allow the student to remain in the Aiken Innovate program, then the student and the learning coach will come in for a conference, and we'll have a academic plan in place to help to prevent any further infraction to our academic misconduct policy. And a third offense would automatically result in the removal of the student from the Aiken Innovate program. We do have technology that we provide to students who participate in the Aiken Innovate program. Every student gets a laptop in Aiken County Public Schools, and so Aiken Innovate is no different. We also require that the Aiken Innovate laptops are used during live session and for any testing that occurs where the student needs to bring the laptop in person to complete, say, a state test, or if they're taking tests under a virtually proctored setting, such as the MAP test. So because of that, we also have a support department that provides support to ensure that technology is working for students who are participating in the program. It's the parents and students' responsibility to help ensure that the laptops are in good working order. If something happens and the technology is not working properly, we're asking that a phone call be made to our technology department to be able to get support with fixing the issue. Sometimes this is going to mean that students have to come in person to the given street location or to their home school to receive support or even get a loaner for their device so that learning can still occur. We will not be able to excuse work that's missed due to technology not working properly. So learning coaches, please help us to expedite getting computers taken care of when an issue arises. Don't let 2 weeks go by before we take care of computer issues. Also, importantly, if a device is lost or stolen, then please communicate with Aiken Innovate administration so that we can help you get a loaner. If the device is stolen, we also are going to need a police report in order to provide that with technology as part of the process for replacing the device. Very, very importantly, we need students to make a habit of restarting computers every day. Sometimes the computers might start running slow or getting laggy if the computers are not restarted, because they receive updates whenever they are restarted. It refreshes the system. We also are going to show students how to check for updates. Occasionally, if computers start to run slow, then it might be best to check to see if this computer is lacking any updates, and then push out those updates and install them on your device in order to increase the optimization of your device. We also have technology support I mentioned a little while ago that's located at the Given Street location that you can see right there, and that phone number should be programmed in every student and parent phone, because if there is a technology issue, that's the support number for getting help with that from an Aiken iNNOVATE technician. We also, and this is important, we utilize computers only for academic purposes. There shouldn't be a case where students are playing games or searching for inappropriate or non-school related material on our devices. So that said, right now we have 2 systems in place, and at the time of this recording, those systems are Securely and LineWise. Securely is used to protect testing integrity and for teachers to help students, by interacting with them, sharing links, and preventing them from getting on websites outside of what's needed for the class. But LineWise is really a district-wide program that's designed to protect students while they are online. And what I mean by that is, if a student searches for any kind of inappropriate or explicit content or mentions anything about hurting themselves or someone else, LineWise is going to pick that up and is going to send Aiken iNNOVATE administration, as well as several other people in the district, a screenshot of what it looked like for the student to do that search, or to send that email, or to type out whatever it is that they're doing. And the administration will then determine if it's a danger or a situation that needs the immediate attention of whoever it may be. And so once we get those notifications and those alerts, we immediately act on it by calling parents, and in some cases student devices may be frozen so that they can't use them. And if we're not able to get in contact with students and parents in order to check on and ensure their safety, then we may even send the police out for a wellness check depending on what was typed. So as long as students are using computers for strictly academic purposes, there shouldn't be any cases of that. But we want to be very transparent that these devices are academic in nature. And so if students are doing things, or anyone is doing something on these devices that are not related to appropriate school use, then we could be alerted, and there could be consequences for that. And that finally brings us to the end of this presentation, where we're going to talk about the partnership with the learning coach. So sometimes, especially younger students, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, may not know always how to advocate, or how to be organized, or how to do certain things on the computer. So we're looking for home learning support, usually a parent or an aunt or a grandmother or someone like that that can stay with the student and provide some kind of support for those students to be successful in class. And listed below at the bottom of this slide are some different things that can be used to or that can be done on behalf of the student by the learning coach. So knowing account passwords and usernames, ensuring active participation, helping students to organize their workspace. What do you do when there's an internet outage, or communicating with students on a regular basis throughout the week to make sure that they're getting all their work done and that they are submitting everything and they know what's coming up. So just by scheduling conversations with your child, you're able to help them to be successful in the program. emailing teachers whenever they need to know something about your child, or responding to emails, or making sure that students are doing what they're supposed to do. All of these different things and then some are going to be what we're asking for help with as we teach your student through the Aiken Innovate program. We're not able to sit shoulder to shoulder with students and ask them what's going on when we don't see them. So we do rely a lot on parents to partner with us in order to allow students the best opportunity to learn the program. So to wrap up, please take a look at the Aiken Innovate Handbook. Make sure that you're familiar with all of our program policies and expectations, and go ahead into the next part of the course, and parents will complete the parent contract, students will complete the student contract, and then we'll move on to the next thing, which is going to be helping students log into everything they need to be successful in the Aiken Innovate program. Thank you for watching.